What a long week. So last week, I had decided on a whim that I would post a video sharing why I will not be buying the Nintendo Switch 2. Like many others, I was extremely hyped up during the entirety of the Direct, and obviously even the months and years leading up to that Direct. But it was just as everything started to surface after the Direct in which I felt like I was being betrayed. And unfortunately, I had nobody to talk to about it. None of my friends and family are really in the circles enough to keep up with everything gaming, and I'm not really big on social networking, so I can't post it anywhere. But there was one thing I did have, and it's this YouTube channel. And since I mostly do Nintendo content, I thought I'd let out a nice video for my fairly humble small following and explain to them my reservations in regards to the Nintendo Switch 2. I figured the usual 50 to 100 people would be interested in having a conversation about it. Somebody to bounce my thoughts off of and to hear their thoughts as well. Because, as anybody that's actually on YouTube knows, there is generally a relationship that develops between amateur YouTubers and their regular viewers and commenters. As a bit of a background, my channel is entirely retrospectives. I've never done anything reactionary, I've never even had a top 10 X moment, or a ranking of every single mustache-raised Mario's ever done. Hell, the only time I've ever done a tier list is when I finished off an entire franchise. And it's included in that final video. The point is, I don't really do the whole talking to a mic for the sake of talking into a mic. I realize why people do it, it's because they get clicks. But the reason I started this channel was so that I can play video games and share my thoughts on those video games. And I go into very deep thoughts too. Now what I didn't expect was that the one time that I step out of my comfort zone, it blows up. My average viewership is like 5,000, and that video currently sits at 160,000 views. Prior to it, I only had two videos that I considered viral, and they were at about 25,000 views. In the past week, I've had two videos surpass that. Now, mind you, when I uploaded that video, I went out of my way to search on YouTube to see if anybody else had posted a similar type of video, and I don't think there was a single one. In general, I'm not a fan of uploading something just because I feel obligated to since everybody else is doing it. But it's funny because now if you search it, you find hundreds of videos of people explaining why they don't think it's a good idea to buy the Nintendo Switch 2. So what did I learn? Either A, there are a lot of people that are extremely disappointed in Nintendo, or B, the online world loves hatred. Seriously, how come nobody told me that was the route to success on YouTube? I did my entire Sonic retrospective series defending the blue blur, and then I realized now I should have just hated on him like everybody else. Actually, no, that can't be the case. I'll give you guys the benefit of the doubt. I think Nintendo actually did betray a lot of us in their Direct. I've been posting videos about it all week, and I think I've kept a fairly level head during those videos too. I'm just not really into the hate for gain thing. But I do have a love-hate relationship with hate that I love. Did that make sense? As much as I don't enjoy being the guy to criticize Nintendo, I mean my avatar is based off of Wario and my channel's called Nintendine, so why would I? Seeing as how hating on Nintendo is very topical right now, I think these discussions have been worth it. Not strictly for the sake of my channel growth, but because there's a lot of information going around, a lot of disagreements, and just all around a very uncomfortable feeling that's not really that common in the Nintendo community. Like, you have pockets, mostly in the Pokemon world, but for the most part, we're just like, wahoo! But I guess, along with Nintendo updating their practices to be more similar to everybody else in the gaming industry, having a toxic fanbase is just another box they can check. But I'm willing to extend an olive branch, if you will. A chance to reconcile. A chance to at least make a portion of the fandom come back to you. Now, keep in mind, I don't speak for everybody, the thumbnail is just a title. I largely assume many of you will not have even made it this far into the video, and you're already typing a comment about how Nintendo doesn't care what I think, or I don't speak for you, or really any of the other ones that I'm sure are filling up the comment section. And on the opposite end, I realize there are a lot of you that no matter what I say right now, you will not think it's enough to bring you back towards Nintendo because of how much they upset you, how much they betrayed you, how much they allowed their corporate greed to get the best of them. On both accounts, I get it. I'm simply a small YouTuber looking for some kind of reconciliation, because as things stands, I am still firm on my belief that I will not be buying a Nintendo Switch 2. And by that I mean I will not be buying it at launch at the price they are asking for. If anything, I may buy it second hand, like 6 months later or something if I get major FOMO and Donkey Kong Bonanza turns out to be the best game of all time. But even then, if I know somebody that has a Switch 2, I might just ask them if I can borrow their console for a week and beat the game and give it back to them. But I will not be giving Nintendo any of my money towards that console. So how can we fix this? Well, generally speaking, when there's a grievance and you need a reconciliation, you can stomp your feet, cross your arms, and go sit in the corner and wait for somebody to come and apologize, or you can do the adult thing and communicate. So I'm gonna make this video and hope that there is somebody somewhere that will probably be bigger than me and hopefully copy me again, and instead of making a video about why they won't buy the Nintendo Switch 2, maybe they have more connections than I do and are able to get it in the hands of somebody that cares. So this is my list of demands. Actually, demands sounds too aggressive. Let's call them terms. If you want me back, baby, this is what you're gonna have to do. I've tried to make this fair, reasonable, and most importantly, realistic. At the end of the day, as so many people in my previous video pointed out, we Nintendo fanboys are apparently bootlickers and will do whatever Nintendo wants us to do. So I can't just stop licking their boots, but I can say maybe wash the boot before I lick it. I don't think it's realistic for me to change the way they develop their games, demand that they stop drip feeding everything, or this new habit they've developed this generation where they hold back updates and DLC to keep you around for a year or two instead of just releasing everything on the cartridge. I realize I have no chance with that, and there's no point. Honestly, I'm not even going to tackle their abysmal eShop practices, nor their lacks of themes and folders on their homes. Oh my god, Nintendo's so annoying. Yeah, whatever. So that stuff, fine. It is what it is. I've used the Switch for this entire generation, and it's been fine. I'm not here to change their philosophy. That's the price to pay to play all these games that I got way too indoctrinated into when I was a kid. What I am here is to change a few things that I think would be fairly reasonable in hopes that they can salvage our relationship. First things first, communication is key. We need transparency. This entire backlash could have been entirely avoided if you didn't sweep it under the rug. You had a 1 hour long Nintendo Direct available to tell us everything that we needed to know. This whole idea that you avoided sharing the prices was the smartest idea you could come up with? I'm sorry, did you just think it was gonna bring down the mood of the Direct? You couldn't even throw somebody on the screen and apologize for the high prices and say this is just what the economy is and there's really unfortunately nothing we can do about it? You know, pretend that you care about your consumer. You probably should have told us that Mario Kart World was going to be $80 in the Direct instead of letting us snoop around in your cell phone behind your back and find out while you weren't paying attention. And even more so, you should have had your ducks in order. The amount of misinformation that has been spread because you guys were not transparent is ridiculous and so avoidable. People are getting hatred for spelling misinformation, and it is Nintendo's fault that that misinformation is being sent out. Their own representatives are answering questions incorrectly. And I'm not even talking about Doug Bowser right now. That will come in a bit. The amount of people right now that think that $90 is going to be the price you're charging in the United States for a physical game is uncanny. And the only reason so many people don't realize that that was not a thing in the United States is because you decided to just cover your ears and bury your head in the sand and wait for everything to blow over. Nobody knew what was going to be on a Nintendo Switch 2 cart because you were not clear about what was going to be on a Nintendo Switch 2 cart. Did you expect the benefit of the doubt? A benefit that you have not earned? Even the whole Joy-Con situation was so avoidable. It's been 8 years of people complaining about Joy-Con drift. If you had just said something along the lines of, "These are our new Joy-Cons, they are more durable than ever," that would have probably been enough. But instead you waited until 3 or 4 days later where it came up in passing, and instead of talking about the Hall Effect sticks, you strictly went and started talking about how the Switch 2 Pro controller feels like a GameCube controller. So yeah, my first term is that we need a little bit more transparency. Maybe it's time to hire a team of communications majors, marketing experts. Hell, at this point, just hire somebody that plays video games and they can probably tell you what you need to say to video gamers. So this whole idea of just avoiding confrontation or backlash, whatever your idea is to just kind of ignore the touchy topics, stop that. Bring it to us face to face so we don't have to make things up in our head. My next term? I want that tech demo for free. Let's be real, nobody's going to buy that game. Not for $10, not even for $2. How many people are you banking on that will actually purchase it? How are you going to make it such a key part of the Nintendo Switch Direct and then not A, tell us the price, and B, just include it for free? You're copying what Sony did with the PlayStation 5, but you're not charging what Sony did with the PlayStation 5. They made their tech demo free. Truth be told, I still have no idea what that game is called. I call it the Tech Demo Minigame Compilation, and I refuse to Google what it's called, out of a matter of principle. And let me tell you something. I don't even want to play that game, but I want them to give it to us for free because I am petty. And I'm petty because they betrayed me. Now, I realize just by saying free, I probably gave everybody at Nintendo an aneurysm. So how about I meet you halfway? Instead of making it free, include it with Nintendo Switch Online. Which brings me to my next term. Nintendo Switch Online needs to be free for the first year of the Switch 2's life. Maybe 6 months if you want to be stingy. Actually, let me reword that. Every Nintendo Switch 2 should come with 6 months or 1 year of Nintendo Switch Online. That way, if it takes somebody forever to grab themselves a Nintendo Switch 2, they don't miss out on it. Part of how you eased us into the Nintendo Switch Online for the original Switch was by giving it to us for free at first. That was much appreciated. Do it again. I realize you really only were that nice to us in the first place because the Wii U absolutely flopped, but let's skip the middleman this time. Instead of waiting for you guys to have to recuperate from a terrible era, let's avoid the terrible era for us. Reward us for our loyalty, for upgrading our Switches. Base NSO is already what, like $20 a year? I think you could stomach a few months free. You have given people free months of NSO before, it's not that big of a deal. That way, we all enjoy it for 6 months to a year. We enjoy your game chat, which is obviously the only NSO feature that you are offering for free because it's a new feature. Otherwise, you would have put that behind the paywall as well. But just make all of NSO free for a while, and I'm sure many of us will stick around again, just like we did on the first Switch. Deal? Okay. Well, no, I'm not done talking about NSO yet. You need to come out and tell us if you're going to increase the price for the GameCube, because I know you're going to. Otherwise, you would have told us it was going to be included with the regular priced expansion pass. And maybe it is. Maybe your plan is to up all the prices across NSO, and that would cover the cost for GameCube. I can totally see you doing something like that. But you need to come out and communicate that with us. Now, personally, I find NSO to be very affordable. I'm hoping that you don't up the price on it, but using an 8-person family plan, I can stomach it. So while I would love to come out here and say that my term is that you promise not to up the price of NSO, I know that's not realistic. You're way too greedy for that. But we need the transparency, and, well, I need the promise that you're going to keep the family plan deal intact. And it's got to be just as affordable. And still not done talking about the NSO. My next term, please sit down before you hear me say this, because I don't want you to hurt yourself. You know those old games from the last generation that you're still charging full price for? Specifically the ones that you are going to have people buy upgrade packs for? They all need to be included with the Switch expansion pass. Because the understanding when we signed up for the expansion pass was that all of this DLC would be included. And just because you creatively refer to it as an upgrade pack rather than downloadable content, it doesn't change the fact that it should be included with the NSO. And that's partially because you won't lower the price on the old stuff. If somebody was to buy a Nintendo Switch 2 and doesn't own Mario Party Jamboree, they shouldn't have to pay $60 for a last-gen game. That's just not right. And likewise, if the poor people that you clearly are catering to by keeping the Switch 1 available for them, thanks for that by the way, Doug, if they mean so much to you, you need to drop the prices of the last-gen stuff. It's been 8 years. The console price is one thing, but the fact that your games have not just gone steadily down to $50 already at least is ridiculous. And at this point, we shouldn't have to shop around for it anymore. That should just be the standard price now. Like, I actually think it should be $40 or $45, but again, $50 at least. That's $10 off of what you were asking for when these games launched. You know, I wasn't even going to say games should be dropped down as one of my ultimatums, but I'm adding that. One of my terms is that all of the Switch 1 games need to go down $10. Ideally, it should be way more than that, but I'm trying to be realistic here. So yeah, these upgrade packs, they should be included with NSO. None of this Switch 2 Edition BS cartridge stuff. Just sell people the old game and let them upgrade it. The issue was never about the fact that the cartridge was not going to be read and say Nintendo Switch 2 on it. It was always about what you were charging, which was the price for the base game plus the extra $20. And both of those prices are absurd. And at this point, I'm talking to the people online that were like, oh no, see, it's worth it because it's a Nintendo Switch 2 cartridge. It's not. It's not worth it. These are last-gen games they're charging full price for, and then making you pay $20 for the DLC that should be included with the NSO. That's bull. And I recommend all of you, if you're going to buy a Switch, go out to Facebook Marketplace, find yourself a used copy of the Switch 1 stuff, and just pay for the upgrade pack when that comes out if you really want to do it, because that'll be way cheaper. But back to Nintendo. Those upgrades, they need to be part of NSO. And speaking of the prices, Nintendo, old Dougie Bowser, you either need to back the hell away from variable prices, or you gotta show us the select lineup of games that are going to be the budget titles. Because I want to know what's going to be cheaper if these are the games that are going to be expensive. Is the tech demo game, that $10 price, part of your budget idea? Or are you going to start charging a lower fee for games that don't cost as much to come out? Show us the list of games like Captain Toad Treasure Tracker and Metroid Prime Remaster. I want to see those $40 games, because if I'm going to be paying $80 for Mario Kart, and potentially even more in a year or two from now because your prices are variable, that means they can go up, I want to know what the cheap stuff you have available is. Because I don't think very many people are going to be able to buy more than 1 or 2 or maybe 3 video games a year if you're going to be charging $70 each minimum for them. But let's be real, there's no budget lineup. You'll throw in a game or two for us for $50 and call that the budget variable priced game. So my term is that you need to get rid of the variable price BS, and you need to tell us that the Switch games are going to cost $70 flat, specifically the AAA games. Because I know how you all operate. If you didn't just have such a phenomenal generation with the Switch, there is no way in hell you'd be charging anybody $80 for Mario Kart. So instead of punishing the consumer for your success, why don't you reward them? The $70 price tag was already too high for most, and your genius idea was to go above and beyond that and tell us that the sky's the limit? Nah, dude, you gotta cut that stuff out. It's not cool. Especially, to backtrack a bit, because the prices on the Switch 1 games have yet to go down. Because at the very least, if someone bought a Switch 2 and they couldn't afford Switch 2 games, they could buy the Switch 1 games and play them on their Switch 2. But nope, no matter how much milk is left in that udder, you're gonna keep tugging away at it. Which brings me to my final term. And for me personally, this is the most important one, but I think the video games are more important for most people. Your console price needs to be dropped. Personally, I would say $350. But in the past week or so, many of my commenters have convinced me otherwise. So while I would love to say that the deal needs to be $400 and Mario Kart World is included with that, again, I'm trying to be realistic and I'm trying to be reasonable. Just drop everything down $50. $400 for just the console and $450 with Mario Kart World. I actually don't think you will succeed that well at that price point, because you took away all of the sales you were gonna make for being the budget console. But I think if after all of this, you were to come out of the situation and tell everybody you're willing to drop the price a little bit because you've listened to the outcry from all of the fans, that alone would win back most of the fandom that you turned away. And it would probably be enough alone to win me back. But in general, most of the stuff that I listed in this video are probably some of the most relevant discussions that have been had over the past week. We need transparency. We need that tech demo to be free. We need 1 year of NSO. We need to know if that price of NSO is going to go up with GameCube, and we need those upgrade packs to be included with the expansion pass. We need the Switch 1 games to go down in price. We need the games to be capped off at $70. And we need the price of the console to go down $50. I think that was all that I mentioned. And I know I'm using the terms us and we as if I'm speaking for all of you, and obviously, if you don't agree with what I said, you're not part of the us and the we. But I'm hoping I at least hit a segment of the fanbase with these terms. I think they're reasonable. Genuinely, I do not think I am asking more than is needed to be asked for. I want Nintendo to approach this as if they just came off of the Wii U, because it is not a good look to come off of a successful console and be more greedy than you were when you needed the money more after a failed console. There's been a joke going around for the past week that Nintendo is just not good with sequels. The Wii was fine, the Wii U wasn't. The DS was fine, the launch of the 3DS wasn't. The Switch is fine, and by all accounts, depending on which circles you're in, you might actually think the Switch 2 is not going to be okay. I personally think it's going to be fun to keep an eye on how things go over the first 6 months. I think the hardcore fans that don't care too much about the price and are super excited for Donkey Kong Bonanza and Mario Kart World are going to buy it regardless. I think scalpers are going to make it so that Nintendo could share their figures with the Washington Post so they can talk about how it's been sold out for the first 3 months. But I also deep down hope that those scalpers cannot sell those Switches. And even if they do sell them, I hope they don't make a penny off of them. Because that way, if they scalp themselves the first 1 or 2 Switches and find that there isn't enough demand to get them all sold, they'll stop earlier on, which means that all the people that want to Switch in the beginning will get it, and then the hype will hopefully die down. So don't come to me in June or July or August and tell me about how great the Switch 2 is doing. I know it's going to be doing great then. And heck, I think it's going to be doing great even after the new year, because they sold so much on the Switch 1 that they will certainly be successful. It just depends on how successful. I so wish that there are enough people that are either boycotting the Switch 2 or enough families that are saying this price is too high, we're not going to upgrade it yet, that it makes Nintendo have to turn heel quicker than they did on the 3DS. But I'm not going to hold my breath. But I still think it was worth sharing my grievances and bringing my own personal terms to the table. And genuinely, I hope that I was able to relate to as many as you as the first video did, where I stated that I would not be buying a Nintendo Switch 2. Because contrary to everything that I'm saying, if there are enough of us that speak out, and more importantly, vote with our wallets, Nintendo will have to variably price their Nintendo Switch 2 down to the market value. Thanks again for listening. I'll see you on the next one.